This is Cam. We are back for another Blerdline News. With me, as always, is
Professor D. Hopefully, these stories won't put a damper on anyone's mood.
And he says that because we are talking about Warner Brothers Discovery, where they have announced that they're about to do a slew of layoffs. Not to mention they'll be getting other hits with negative news, as financial analysts are kind of saying, like, yo, man, this shit ain't working.
Yeah, they really are. Literally, Bank of America, analysts put out this statement, and you can find it in the Hollywood Reporter published yesterday morning. But, they're basically saying, this strategy that they're going with is not working. And, Zaslav, David Zaslav, the CEO, was recently in Sun Valley. This is all part of this the Hollywood Reporter article, and he was talking up the potential for the next presidential administration to have an opportunity for deregulation so companies can consolidate and do what we need to do even better. This is him quoting him, which I'm thinking, I listen to that and I say, okay, that's the standard CEO line that's given when the company is clearly losing a whole lot of money.
A lot. And I think also too, they, the previous layoffs they did, that affected HBO Max, HBO teams. Then they shut down CNN Plus, which was around for like 17 seconds.
It was supposed to be their sort of big time digital push of moving out of the linear space only and moving more into the streaming, doubling down on the streaming, which is very interesting because we've talked on the other show on Blerdlines about how much this is impacting, everyday people.
Yeah.
And, and so that's why this whole thing has become such a big deal, because usually, and I said this offline to you or to someone, in that it's hard to settle in a position, in a role for a company, and in our industry, any one role could be very big and very important to the network, or it could be very small. But in that sort of between the producers and the editors and the writers and the designers and all these individuals who make up the essential cogs in the machine, it's hard to really settle into your role if in every 6 months since you've been a part of it, since this new company has emerged, there are these wide cuts and they're not confined to the top level.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's also just like, stock prices is down 30% year over year. They're not adjusting well to people cutting the cord and whatnot either. Their streaming services are a little bit all over the place. Like we were talking about it before, like, not releasing movies that you already paid for.
Yeah, I mean,
it doesn't make there's a lot of moves that Zaslav's doing now that you're almost like grasping at straws, but then at the same time, like we were talking about Batgirl, and again, I give zero fucks about Batgirl, whatever. But it's in the can. You've already did it. They released Madam Web.
Yeah, Sony made the decision. Yeah, they're like, look, they probably knew that movie was garbage.
Exactly.
Before it went out. I don't believe that any of us are that much more smarter than these individuals. Maybe some of us are, a few of us definitely. But I don't think that they saw this and they said, oh, this is great. I think they saw it and said, this is probably the best we're going to get. At the very least, it'll make its money back on the streaming. You can always assure that there are people out there, and there are people out there that just just love superhero movies. They don't care if it's who's casting it. They don't care who's directing it, who wrote it. They just like it. I saw something on Facebook, and it's not to take us too far away from the topic, where someone said Godzilla and Kong is better than Godzilla -1. And the caption was, "Fight me on it." I was like, I said to myself, brother, I wouldn't dare fight you on it because you know how stupid it is. That's the reason why you said that. Because you already know that those two things are, while
two separate things.
They're two separate things. Now, I watched Kong and Godzilla, that's new Empire movie. It's not a bad monster mash by any means, but it's a fucking monster mash. Excuse my language. It's a movie about a giant dragon
and a giant monkey,
wingless dragon, and a giant ape who are trying to save humanity from another giant ape and an ice wingless dragon. It's ridiculous. Whereas one is making a commentary on the aftermath of nuclear hellfire, something that actually happened. So, and Godzilla also being kind of a metaphor for the United States of America in general.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing too, where it's like, we now because we live in this age of hot takes and fucking just dumb stuff. Like, I was laughing because we were talking about, someone was talking about, I know the Acolyte just wrapped this weekend. I've not watched it past episode 2.
It was yesterday, I think.
Yeah.
So it's very, very recent.
Very fresh. But someone was talking about it on Rotten Tomatoes, and I was like, oh, I stopped looking at Rotten Tomatoes years ago, but I was like, I was looking at it anyways. And so I looked, and like, of course, the critic score was like 80 something, blah, 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 blah. And I actually went through them. I was just like, I'm curious to see what they actually were seeing. And it was, and some people, some reviewers had some interesting things to say about it. But then I would look at the actual audience things, and then the audience ones were like a little bit more crude, a little bit more. Some of them were good, but most of them were just whatever. But it's just a great reminder that your average person that's consuming these content, they're not like they're dummies, but they're not necessarily maybe well versed in the creation of that content, right? Like, they're not writers, they're not filmmakers, none of that stuff. So they're just literally just watching something, responding, and being like, I like it, I don't like it, and then moving on. And I think,
and they're choosing to pay for it, whether or not they want. And that brings us back to the strategy of Warner Bros. Discovery that isn't working, in that you're cutting the things that probably could save you and not considering letting go of some of the things that will absolutely save you. Like, again, do we need to be in the business of 24-hour news?
There you go.
Can we let go CNN, which is probably worth $5 billion alone?
$6 billion by itself. That right there would probably save the jobs, like a big bulk of the jobs you were going to cut in the next year.
But let's cut Batgirl. Let's not, even though Batgirl was finished, done, in the can, all it needed was a PR marketing budget, and boom, it's and if you decide, okay, we're just going to do a digital release, then that cuts off half of your promotion budget and your marketing budget. Yeah. Netflix is doing quite well having Madam Web up there, and I'm almost certain Sony is going to mitigate some of its loss.
Yeah, it's the same with now, what's the one that's been Hitman with Glenn Powell. Like, I see the big billboards in Times Square and stuff like that. That movie does not need big billboards, but it's just enough that they do it. Or that dumbass Atlas J-Lo movie. Like, those movies, God. Like, I don't even know how these things got green lit, but like, they didn't have a marketing budget that was big that needed to do that. They could have done the exact same thing with Batgirl, and it, not for nothing, if people actually liked it, boom, you have a hit that you didn't think you had.
Exactly. And there's always options too, because we're in an age of special circumstances. We know that there was a strike that really set back the industry in terms of production and jobs and things like that. We understood that there were going to be cuts after the SAG-AFTRA strike. Everybody saw that coming. Everybody knew that was coming. It was inevitable, unavoidable.
Yeah, exactly.
And a pandemic and all these things. So there's concessions. There's special things that could be given in this situation. But we're talking about cutting fat from the mid to low tier, and that is where we're where it's scary if you're in the industry.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. I think that's my overall concern because it's like, these are just they're all millionaires. The companies are billion-dollar companies. Like they're talking about they got like 40 billion in debt, and like they're like, oh, we could just make a side company and then throw all that debt on that side company and let that chill over there, and then maybe sell off Senate. Like, but it's so funny because they're looking at it from these big company eyeballs, less of the regular human factor, and
Yeah.
so like you said, it goes back to that where like Zaslav is playing with it's monopoly money at this point.
Yeah,
And the way
absolutely.
the way he's been operating, it definitely seems like that. And I'm very curious to see how much longer he's going to be able to play like this because now we have actual receipts. Oh, stock is down 30% year over year. That is not a good thing. Oh,
Yeah.
we're in debt because of these properties that's not doing nothing. That is not good. Yo,
Yeah.
this company's not making us like, for Disney for a long time, they used ESPN as their scapegoat. Every time they
Yeah.
couldn't give bonuses or fucking bonuses, raises, or promotions. Like, oh, we really didn't do this well this quarter, and they would use ESPN as the scapegoat. Now, to ESPN's discredit, they were bleeding money, and even now they're bleeding money because they keep
Yeah.
losing all of their contracts. And stuff
All the
like that.
contracts. Yep.
Yeah, contracts. They're losing all of their licensing fees and all that shit. So yeah, but I think now it's like for Warner Brothers Discovery, I just don't know what like. They need to just break it up. Section them off into three pillars that will work. Like, hey, this is our freaking streaming stuff. This is our movie stuff. This is our TV stuff. But at least have some direction because if not, I like anyone that's working there, I would be pretty shook because they acting like a tech company right now. And tech companies, they'd be like, you know what? This ain't working. Shoot, we're cutting 200 people. Oh, we're cutting 500. Oh, we're cutting another 100. We got to make our numbers work. And I think that's how Warner Brothers is like operating right now.
Yeah, and in the past, as I said, as we pointed out, because I've been a part of maybe 3 companies that have undergone these kinds of transformations where into new companies where a new company will merge with it or buy it, and then the assets of that previous of both companies will become one and create a whole new company. I've been a part of that a few times, and every time I've been a part of it, there's always a wave of layoffs that you expect at the beginning. Then things mellow out throughout the rest of the year or the years to come, and there's less of that, and it becomes maybe once every other year, you have smaller cuts, and some people go. But now this is again, and now a lot of those cuts often came at the executive and the management level. Now they're coming at the lower level, the cogs in the machine level.
And that's what we're worried about.
That's
like,
worrying.
Cutting executives, hey man, they're getting golden parachutes. They're, it's not like
they don't get fired. They're paid to walk away.
Exactly.
So there's something in that.
But then, if you're a producer, you're a writer, you're a PA, you're all these things, those are the people that we care about. And like these dumb moves at the top will definitely will affect them on the bottom, which sucks because now, like you said, they have to figure out how they're going to do that, right? So I think their previous layoffs were when they merged HBO Max and HBO, when they freaking shut down CNN Plus, which literally was out for like 17 seconds.
Yeah, and imagine that all those people see from the outside looking in. For those listening to this, you hear that if you're not in the industry, you hear that and you say, "Oh, well, they just ended." That means CNN. What was it? CNN Plus, CNN.
Yeah, CNN
Go.
Plus.
That means it's gone. But as Cam pointed out, what we hear is, and in addition to it only being around for the short period of time, is that those people literally got put into their jobs thinking that they were going to have this job security for a little while at least, insurance, all these things, and boom, it's just gone. And literally the example of here today, gone tomorrow. And how is that fair when the people who are making millions yearly are not affected by this?
Yeah.
There's something that, and yet they are the ones who are making the decisions. So,
and then also too, from our homies that are in the industry, like on the working level, they were talking about how everything's down, right? So you're getting less shoot days. You're getting, before on TV shows, they would book you for 2 weeks, and so at least you know where you're at. There's all union based and all that. But now they're waiting and be like, okay, we're only gonna do 3 days, or we're gonna do 2 days, or we're gonna do you for a day. So now you have to readjust to all your stuff because now they're just not shooting as much. They, and Hollywood, to Hollywood's credit, they were, fast and loose with their money, but that actually helped the actual regular worker because now there's craft services, there's lighting, there's grips, there's this, there's that. But now that they're like, trying to figure out how they're going to
save money because they have to pay the creators now.
Yep, exactly.
Fair and fair.
One of my friends is on a Netflix show, reality TV, and they cut his budget, his writing budget. He's the host of the show, and so he had to cut his writers, and then they were like waffling on when the actual schedule time was because they were just not like being organized with their stuff. And so he was like, "Yo, while I was negotiating with them, I lost out on a movie deal, and like a TV thing." And he's like, "Yo, I gotta jump because I got other things I want to work on."
Yeah.
And so like it just basically the strike plus COVID was a perfect storm of just fucking up the whole industry.
Yeah, it was already in a state of transformation because of streaming and cable not going away, but redefining itself. Everything had, even the $1 billion revenue ad industry had to change. And then you get hit with COVID and all these other incidents and things happening at the same time. So, it has been a large transformative time in the industry. And I think the reason that a lot of the Warner Bros. Discovery board and investors are still sticking with Zaslav and not voting him out is because how can you measure what's strategy versus what's the aftermath, lingering effects of these big time determinants that hit society and specifically affected this industry? It's hard to know. It's unfortunate because in the meantime we have to deal with the decision to, as we said before, cut a network or whatever, and in that act kill 1,000 jobs.
Yeah, exactly. And I think by next year will be kind of like that. Okay, we're out of COVID. We're strikes. We're removed from the strike. We have a full year of data to show the horribleness of it or the better parts of it or whatever. And even Hollywood Reporter was also talking about how reality TV filming had plummeted as well. And in LA, there's tons of jobs. Like there's always crew jobs for reality TV stuff, and that's like reality TV is a lot cheaper to produce, but you also can still have people having jobs. But even they are taking the hit and shooting less days now and requiring less crew. So now you're like, again, a lot of people are feeling the crunch, especially on the ground level of people that are actually working. So these silly execs making these decisions I've always basically impacted other people, but now we're really seeing it on a level that's more ground level, and
there's something else that's helping them, which everybody skates around it and doesn't talk about it as much, because I'll give it credit, it's very helpful in certain things, and that is AI.
Yep.
AI is playing a huge role in this, and it will continue, because when you talk about how these budgets are changing and these executives are constantly being wishy-washy and going back with their deals with certain production teams and groups and things like that, they're trying to figure out how to best utilize AI and how to make it so that they can include it in their budget and not have to pay actual human beings.
Yep, 100%. 100%.
That's a part of it as well. And so we're just in this weird landscape. It's funny because we've talked about the streaming wars, and I did about 3, maybe 4 podcast episodes where we discussed it. And now we're as quickly as that was, where we had all these conglomerates butting heads and going against each other for content, for audience shares and eyes and all that stuff. Now, the scuttlebutt this year is that they're going to start combining and they're going to start teaming up. So we just don't have any idea where this thing is going. And so, one of the things that the Hollywood Reporter and the Bank of America analysts were suggesting, and apparently there's a whole report around it, is should is unbundling the answer, because again, Warner Bros. Discovery sits on assets like CNN, like HGTV, True
I think
TV.
they're about 200. They have like 200 IPs or something like that. One of my friends was she used to be employer brand, talent brand over there, and she was showing she was kind of just giving a presentation of like, because she had been there for the mergers. And so she was like, when I first got here, I was working on 6 brands. Then we got merged, and it was like 20. And like now here, all of them, and it was like 200 something. And I was like,
yeah, it's a lot. And you just talking about the networks and not just the gaming studios, the movie studios, and all of the independent production companies that they've gobbled up over the years. All of the, again, we're in a historic moment. One of the other thing that's mentioned in this Hollywood Reporter article is the stuff regarding Sherry Redstone and the Paramount Global and this sale that they're doing with Skydance. That's going to bring a host of budget cuts and layoffs for people, again, who are writers and editors and gaffers and PAs and script supervisors and boom mic audio assistants and editors assistants and all these different roles. They're going to be snuffed out until things are reconfigured and restarted when whatever the new company emerges that is formerly Paramount Global / Skydance. So I don't know what the solution is. I'm not pretending like I do, but my guess would be that if you do have all these assets that are worth billions of dollars, rather than start cutting people who legitimately need these jobs and these careers, why not consider starting with the biggest shark in the seas and work downward from there, instead of, we can save money because we're going to eliminate this department of workers, and then just combine and compartmentalize that work into a whole nother department, therefore putting stress on those people who are already worried about whether or not they're going to keep their job. So now they have to double time on their performance because they're taking on more responsibilities.
Yeah. And I think like that's, we're going to leave it there because that's a good way to look at it. The other quick aside, it's not quick, but it's big. Just recently, it was reported that the Russos are back to the MCU. They're officially signed on for Avengers 5 and 6. They're retooling the whole shit. It's probably going to be Secret Wars, I believe, focusing on the Beyonder.
I saw that Kang is still involved. He's just no longer the main antagonist.
Yeah, so I think what they're it seems like, and to Feige's credit, this probably is a good move. One, you got Russos who are pretty much proven in terms of at least being able to tell a good story and entertaining. And then 2, you get to kind of like wash your hands of the Kang situation, which we already have our own thoughts on that, so it's just whatever's.
But also bring in some trusted names, because the problem that he had to see with Ant-Man 3, that same guy that they had hired to write those 2 new Avenger films.
Yep.
It couldn't have been hard to say we need to, beyond the Jonathan Major stuff, we need to reconsider this, because this path is not going to maximize what we want with these next Avenger films.
100%. And and Ant-Man 3 is fucking horrible. Like it's just
terrible.
It's not
a good movie.
It wasn't good written. It was a waste of your actors that you had. It was a waste of the story.
Brilliant actors involved. How do you have You have Michelle Pfeiffer, Paul Rudd, Jonathan Majors. People can
Michael
say what they
Douglas.
want, but
Yep.
he's a good actor.
Yep.
Michael Douglas. You even have Bill Murray making some cameos, and yet this is still Katie O'Brien, who's a rising star.
Yep.
You know, you have all these people involved, and it's just totally wasted. Like I can't even go back and rewatch that movie. It's so
it just doesn't make it home. It is again just a waste. And so I think even like you said, even without the Majors thing, I think the Kang pitch might have worked if Ant-Man 3 would have worked.
Absolutely.
And since it didn't work, I think it was smart for them to be like, ooh, we need to rethink this.
Yeah. And you can see that they were even considering that with Loki, with the way he's depicted in Loki. I mean, they literally use one line of dialogue to tell us that the previous Kang the Conqueror that we saw in Ant-Man 3 was in fact killed, and that the advancing of the Kangs had been effectively slowed, if not stopped.
Yeah.
So,
and then there you go. And then now they can move on. They can do something else. And like, I think, and the Russo brothers, they're just having fun anyways. Like they did their 2 extraction films. They did, and they're just been enjoying. So I can see them. I can see them having fun with this. I think this will be a great. And I think doing a Secret Wars in the MCU is easy and fun. And the reason why I'd say it's easy is because the first Secret Wars was more of a, hey, let's grab a bunch of different heroes, put them on a world and have them fight each other.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second Secret Wars, which was Hickman. Now, I wasn't the biggest fan of it, but the one thing that was kind of cool was it smashed all the quote unquote multiverse peoples together. So you had a mix of different characters all together. Doom was the basically the overall tyrant of the whole thing. So he's a big bad. The way they did it in the second time for Secret Wars, it was basically the whole thing for Secret Wars was twofolds. One, get rid of Fantastic Four because Marvel was pissed that Fox did that shitty ass movie, and then 2, bring Miles into the continuity of the main Marvel. And so that was literally the 2 things that they accomplished with that, which I thought was cool. It worked for what it was. The one of the coolest parts of Secret Wars actually, and that whole thing was they did a Black family as a bunch of Novas, and that was like a small 4-part series, but it was really, really well done. And it was basically Black family in space, and they became Novas, and they had to figure out fighting. It was dope. It was something that you have never seen it before. It was interesting. There were new characters, and it was cool. The other Secret Wars books, various ups and downs, but I think this might be a route to kind of like quote unquote clean up things and to kind of move forward from their little hiccups they've been having in this last phase was kind of meh, and
last 2 phases, and also probably to bring in their big upcoming characters, right? So the X-Men, the Fantastic Four,
easily.
I would say Blade, but it seems like that is more and more looking less likely to happen.
Listen, I mean, I hope they figure something out with that. But maybe, like, again, we've been hurt before.
Well, yeah, we have. And I think the big issue is that they're not probably narratively understanding how to include this in addition to the production problems. But where does Blade fit in this?
Yeah.
And this, he doesn't fit in the current MCU. Doctor Strange barely fits in the current MCU. And I would say,
with that being said, I think the part that I would do, again, I, as an avid comic book reader, I read a lot of the shit. I've been reading this since I was like 5. But I think for Blade, the best thing to do is to do what they did with Daredevil, Punisher, Luke Cage, and Jessica Jones, and give them a TV series within a pocket of their own thing. They exist within this larger world, but they're more ground level, right? We can establish that there's vampires in the MCU, but that doesn't mean that they need to be in everything. They can be like, yo, there's vampires in the MCU, and Blade's the one that takes care of them. Yeah. And then that's where you can bring in the Midnight Sun. So that's
would make sense. That would give you some narrative leeway to explain why you don't see vampires that often, or why there aren't more reported attacks. Well, that builds who the Daywalker is to the vampires. He is a boogeyman to them.
Yep.
That
100%.
He is the Batman of fighting vampires. Like, he does his job extremely well. So
Exactly.
you would not have an influx of vampires. I think Blade is much easier to explain in the MCU currently if they decided to not shift any kind of stuff like, we're bringing it in from Earth 87 or something like that.
I actually agree, because then, like you said, if he's good at his job, you wouldn't hear about vampires.
Yeah,
and so
absolutely.
and it would be exactly that. Like, even if you used Sam Wilson, he's like, wait, there's vampires? And then he's like, I never heard about no vampires. And Blade's like, exactly.
Yeah, he's like, well, take a bow. Like, if you never heard of vampires, my work is done.
And then now that you have, it's because now it's gotten bigger than me. Like,
it's gotten too big for me to contain. Yeah,
Dracula's back, or they've figured out a way to whatever it is. But now it's like, now there's a reason to bring in people that wouldn't know about vampires.
Yeah,
Blade's
because
like, I've been
now
doing this
it's
by myself
exactly.
I've been doing this by myself for a while, but now that I need help. Like, I don't want to ask for help, but let me go reach out to the 2 other Black people in MCU. Yo, Black people, I need help.
Yeah, and that's just what. So, well, I guess 3. You got the folks in Wakanda. They ain't gonna help.
Nope.
Then you got
Luke Cage,
and you got Sam, Rhodey.
Oh yeah, Rhodey. See,
you got Rhodey.
Like, again, be cynical on some Black shit. I would do that. I would have him go to every Black person in the MCU first and be like, yo, I need help. And Wakanda's like, smack.
Yeah. And then it'd be funny just if he went to Sam or to Rhodey and like, look, man, I can't approach the Avengers like that. I'm not going to. Like,
exactly.
give us an end. I dwell in the night killing vampires. They think I'm crazy. You know what I'm saying? They might attack me. I might have to behead Captain America. I don't want to do that.
Exactly. And so it is funny, because when they put Blade on the Avengers, it was actually kind of cool, because it kind of worked. And it worked because of that, because Blade is not an Avenger. He's like, I kill things on a regular basis. Like, that's
he's not a superhero. It's not just that he kills vampires. Blade will kill a human just as fast as a vampire. He and Punisher are essentially the same in terms of their ideology. Like, I'm coming at you 110%. If you are in my way, you will get the knife if you're Blade. If you're in my way, you will get the bullet if you're the Punisher.
And it was cool because, like, they gave Blade kind of like his own Avengers team, which was a mix of Mystics type folks. And it was about that, around that. It was like some mystical stuff, some vampire stuff, some whatevers. So it was kind of cool. So I think Blade...
But the MCU hasn't captured that in the same way as the comics.
Yeah.
And that's been their problem. Even when they tried to do it with the Defenders, it didn't work because you didn't believe it, because they hadn't done the right type of build-up and development of having those characters interact. The only people that really had interacted were Jessica Jones and Luke Cage, and then a few times the others kind of interacted. But they never had a situation.
Yeah, and I think that's I think that's exactly how I would play it. I would play Blade as the introduction to the supernatural in the MCU. And you do it as a TV show, do it 6 episodes, 8 episodes. And the underlining threat is vampires, but almost every episode kind of introduces a piece of the supernatural world in the MCU. And it doesn't have to be...
trust them to not mess it up, though, because they have tried to introduce the supernatural already, and they have not done it well.
I've been hurt before.
Yeah, the 2 Doctor Strange films. The first, think about how bad they bungled it between Ghost Rider and the Darkhold in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and we know that continuity has been struck.
Although Ghost Rider was cool. I did like it.
I loved Robbie Reyes and what's his name? Is it Gabriel?
Is it Gabriel Luna? No, Luna? It's the other guy. It's I always
forget Diego Luna. Yes, Diego.
He was great.
He was great. I wanted to see more of him as Ghost Rider Robbie Reyes.
100%.
They bungled it, but they more importantly, they bungled their description and establishment of the supernatural and magical world.
Yeah.
They try too much and too often to say, oh, that's not magic. That's just science that hasn't been understood.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
then you're not giving us magic. You're giving us some magic is arcane. It is unknowable. It is supernatural because of the fact that it's something that cannot be explained by simply saying, oh, that's just light refracting from, in scientific terms. And yet they left it off on what was it? Simmons and Fitz and
Fitz and Simmons. Yeah.
Fitzsimmons. Yeah, they left it off on Fitz, basically debunking the magical aspect of it and saying like, no, this is just energies between the membrane of dimensions, and you can manipulate it. And then that was also in Doctor Strange. But then in Doctor Strange 2, they tried to go away from all that and say, no, there's actual magic, there's actual witchcraft. There's actual spells and hexes and things like that, but they still don't give a comprehensive framework of how that works. I laugh when Wong says, what did he say? He goes, this isn't sorcery, it's witchcraft. I was like, and the difference overall is what?
Yeah.
Witches don't use runes?
Yeah.
Last time I checked, in most lore, witches use runes.
Nope, you're not wrong. And it's comedy because, again, for Blade, like, it could be, damn it, one line of dialogue where Blade goes to Strange and is like, look, I got a vampire problem. And Strange is like, I can't help you, but my man, Brother Voodoo can.
Exactly.
And boom. And now you've introduced two people that are in space and they're in the magical space. And now you have Brother Voodoo established as that. And like now that's his tie, right? Strange alley-ooped it to Brother Voodoo. Now it's Blade and Voodoo fighting magic, supernatural beings, vampires, done. That's the TV show. It's 8 episodes. And it's in that thing. It introduces it, right? We got our vampires. Probably could throw in some werewolves if you want. Werewolf by Night, Elsa Bloodstone, blah, 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 blah. But you could at least have that introduction and then from there grow, right?
Because what characters do you want to ultimately see that occupy the cosmic supernatural space? Mephisto, like we want to see Mephisto show up at some point.
Want to see Ghost Rider again?
You want to see Ghost Rider again because he's gonna. But you cannot. You want to see Blackheart because these are cool villains in that Ghost Rider canon. And so they could have done it if they had taken the same approach that Bo DeMayo took with how he installed Marvel characters and sprinkled them throughout X-Men 97, which is to say, I don't need to give you the whole to do how this became this or this got to this point. Because you know these things already. So guess what I'm going to do? I'm just going to have Captain America show up to confront Rogue because guess what? In this world, he would do that.
Exactly.
I'm going to have Rogue. I'm going to have more change into all of these Marvel characters because guess what? He knows how strong they are and what their power would advantage that they would give him. I'm going to show you Daredevil doing this thing. I'm going to show you Spidey doing this thing. I don't need to give you a whole origin story about these folks because you've seen it for the last 80 years in one way or another.
Exactly.
If they had approached the MCU like that, stop trying to explain every single thing while also not establishing properly the mythology.
Yeah. And I think that's that part is that they've been bungling it for the last phase and a half too. And I think I'm curious to see if this is going to right the ship because the scheduling, I think, for the next Avengers movie is next year or something like that, 2025.
Yeah, and the only movie this year is Deadpool Wolverine, right?
Yeah, that's the only
and that's supposed to be, apparently, that's the rumor, the scuttlebutt, and we won't know until we've seen it, so don't take this to the bank, but the scuttlebutt is that this is supposed to introduce the X-Men to the MCU.
Which I think would be fun. And I think, actually, no, I looked it up. So the Avengers is supposed to be 2026. So,
yeah, I thought so. That makes sense.
And
Because I think
honestly,
Fantastic Four is coming before the Avengers.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
And I think that might be their only movie. I think something like that. I think
next year is just the Fantastic Four, and that would align with what Feige has been saying all along, which is he wanted to make a big deal out of the Fantastic Four, and when they do finally come, it's gonna be all about them.
Yeah,
like they are.
And to their credit, I mean, like Fantastic Four is kind of Marvel's baby in terms of like their main peoples. Like that's their Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman situation. And so like X-Men as well. So that's why it's and
Spidey.
And Spidey. So like those are the three properties that if they could do this all over again, those are the three
they would have started with them.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I can see them taking them time and be like, yo, you know what? We're only going to do Fantastic Four next year. And that's all we're going to talk about. That's
and
all we care
then
about.
The next year, whatever year that will be, it will only be X-Men because they know that they cannot afford to bungle these. They took the chance with the other guys because as we talk about all the time, the irony of the MCU will always be that the characters that they introduce who are super popular now, I mean, they are A-listers without a doubt. Were at the time C and D list in comparison to their main folks, the X-Men, the Fantastic Four, and Spider-Man. Captain America was well known because he was, in fact, Captain America. You know, but Thor, Iron Man, Black Widow, Hawkeye.
Yeah,
the only one of that group was Hulk. That was more popular in the 70s and 80s.
And honestly, most of those people were all West Coast Avengers, which is definitely the C League Avengers. So it's just like that's why I was surprised. But like you said, I think it's gonna be interesting with this little like Deadpool Wolverine comes out soon. You definitely know we'll be talking about that because it's gonna be hilarious if nothing else.
Yeah, but nothing else. It'll be fun and hilarious.
It'll be fun and hilarious. Like that's literally my expectations. I don't really care about I know they're gonna be doing some stuff which will be fun. But as long as I'm laughing and I'm entertained, that's literally my expectations for that movie. Like
and this is also a payoff from about 20 years of jokes.
Yes, 100%.
That started 100%. With Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman in X-Men Origins.
Yes, 100%.
And has been going on.
Damn, has it been that long since that came out?
Dude, it's been almost that long. Maybe less than 20, maybe like 15 or 16, but it's been a long time. Because remember, X-Men Origins came out before Wolverine came out before Last Stand. It came out after Last Stand, but before Days of Future Past and before Ryan, before what's his name came back to direct. Brian.
15 years ago. Yeah, this is a 15-year payoff. Kind of dope.
Yeah,
kind of dope. I gotta give it to him.
Yeah, that's the only reason you don't mind Hugh Jackman returning after he said I'm done after Logan. And that's the reason he's like, okay, yeah, I'll do it. Because A, he knows they're going to pay him a lot of money.
So much money.
B, he likes Ryan Reynolds as much as everybody else does, and probably not more because he knows him personally.
Yeah.
And C, it's probably something the two of them had always promised that one day, if they could, they would do it. Like legitimate Deadpool and legitimate Wolverine and the costumes, the all the stuff we got before. And that's why this is such a crazy inside, 2 decades joke is that, when he played Deadpool the first time, it wasn't the Deadpool we wanted.
And he had and he didn't talk, which is even funnier. So that just made it even stupider. Like,
it was supposed to be like that was supposed to be his punishment, right? Because he was talking a lot at the beginning, but then the villain cuts out, sews his mouth shut. So it's supposed to be ironic, but it ended up being a popcorn fart.
So good, so hilarious.
But so we're all looking forward to it. We're looking forward to it, and I think it'll be fun if nothing else, like you said.
Yeah, exactly. That's all I really care about. I just want it to be fun. I want to be entertained. I want to hear the jokes and see all the little Easter eggs they're going to have.
And finally, Hugh Jackman is in the appropriate suit.
Exactly.
I would have loved to have the mask.
Me
I,
too.
I would have loved to have the mask,
And
but
maybe he'll have it for like 2 seconds. But yeah,
he
you're right.
probably will. I think he's gonna have it, and then it's probably gonna get knocked off, or he's gonna take it
Yeah,
off, or something
exactly.
like
You
that.
can't, we got that's a multi-million-dollar face. We can't be
That's what
covering
I'm about to
this up.
say. Like, they're not gonna hide that face and under a mask for 2 hours. Like, they're just not going. The only person that got away with doing that, and probably because he insisted, was Carl Urban in Dread.
Yeah,
And because he never takes them, you
Yeah.
never see anything other than this part of his
and
face the whole time.
as the comics, it was faithful to the comic. That's again, Dread, underrated movie if you've never seen it before.
Oh my God,
Carl
it's so
Urban.
good. It's
a
so
good rewatch. It's a good first watch. It's a good rewatch again. Like, it's just top to
It's
bottom.
the perfect example of doing little and getting a lot more than what you would have if you did like a crazy 6-figure budget. Like, oh my God, that's 100%. Such a great superhero film.
100%.
Comic adaptation.
But yeah, that's all. That's our, like, our little mini rants. We call it mini, but we had 40 minutes already.
We gave you more than you deserve. I'm just kidding. We love y'all.
But yeah, this, Blerdline news, just dropping on current events and stuff like that. And yeah, we'll talk to you guys soon. Later.